Welcome. My name is Ingrid Parker, and it is my privilege to be the host of this event. Harmon Langenheim was an intrepid global explorer and a lover of all cultures, places, and people around the world. So it is fitting that the memorial service for our dear Jean takes place in this format, bringing together people from around the world who have been touched by Jean's life and legacy. Events like weddings and memorial services are a time for a community to come together and reflect on the things that bind us together, our shared experiences and stories, and our shared commitments. In creating this memorial service, we have woven together the threads of a community that is as diverse and complex as Jean was herself. You will hear short reflections from a number of speakers who represent different aspects of Jean's life and her legacy, and you will enjoy the reading of some of Jean's own words. Please feel free to use the chat function in Zoom to share greetings, reflections, and reactions to what is being said or read. The chat is a place for you to use to connect and feel connected. At the end of the pre-recorded portion of this service, we will have time for a virtual reception, during which you will be invited to join breakout rooms to socialize, reminisce, and share stories of Jean. The breakout rooms are designed so that you may join any one and may move between them at will. Some of the rooms have themes. For example, there will be a special room for Jean's former students and their families, and another for current and former Langenheim Fellows to meet each other. I know that Jean would be pleased to be the instigator of one more happy social event, bringing people together. So in that spirit, welcome all of you to this gathering as we remember the life and gifts of our dear Jean Harmon Langenheim.
I have been asked to talk about Jean as a scientist. Her scientific life was so rich, so varied, and so long that it's just impossible to capture a sense of the scale of it all in a few minutes. For Jean, science was both a way of life and a way of knowing. She was proud of her achievements as a scientist. She was deeply grateful to her mentors and collaborators, and equally grateful to those who she helped train as new scientists and those who came to her lab as visitors. Memories of everyone who ever worked with her remain vivid in her mind and important to her throughout her life. When writing her autobiography, Jean worried about giving credit to the many scientists and students who were so important to her scientific life and her life in general. My wife, Jill, read draft after draft of her autobiography, after which Jean would bombard her with questions about how this paragraph sounded, whether that paragraph conveyed the right kind of appreciation that she wanted to convey. The title of her book, The Odyssey of a Woman Scientist, encapsulates how Jean thought of her scientific life, a quest as a scientist and a quest to overcome the barriers that she faced as a woman trying to pursue her passion for scientific discovery. Jean began by studying the plant communities in the Colorado mountains. Those studies were so carefully done that they are still used as a baseline for some current studies of those plant communities. She later shifted her research to the chemical ways in which plants have evolved to defend themselves against enemies. She became one of the pioneers of the field of plant ecology. Much of her research was on the resins produced by trees, which eventually harden into what are called amber. She studied not only the chemistry, evolution, and ecology of plant resins, but also their cultural uses. Her studies took her to 5 continents in search of various kinds of amber. She studied resins in tropical trees, in the redwoods of California, in the amber deposits of the Baltic, among other places. That work culminated decades later after her retirement in a book entitled Plant Resins, Chemistry, Evolution, Ecology, and Ethnobotany. That was gene science, the interface of those 4 fields of science. The work on resins was only part of her scientific career, but we can only cover so much on a day like this. It was, though, the major thread throughout her scientific career. But Jean was also concerned about science writ large, beyond her own science. She was among the early board members of the Organization of Tropical Studies. She served as president of 4 scientific societies. I don't know of anybody else who has served as president of 4 scientific societies. In those ways, she worked to maintain and expand networks of scientists worldwide. In our conversations, she would recall those efforts with a real sense of joy. Jean was a very special person, as well as a very special scientist, and I'll always treasure having had her as a friend. Fortunately, her legacy in science is going to remain for many generations to come through the students, collaborators, and others she worked with and inspired so much.
When I arrived as a new assistant professor at UCSC in the summer of '73, in what was then cryptically referred to as the Biology Board of Studies, the plant group consisted of Kenneth Keeman, Harry Beavers, Bill Doyle, and Jean Langenheim. Now they're all gone, or in plant language, they have all undergone senescence. When great trees die, they leave behind records of their lives ingrained in their growth rings. Great professors leave behind their CVs, their books and papers, and the many students and colleagues whose lives they enriched and who remember them fondly. Other speakers will describe Jean's prolific scientific contributions and honors. Fortunately, Jean has written a wonderful memoir, The Odyssey of a Woman Field Scientist, which should be required reading for all undergraduates in ecology and graduate students as well. I was one of several people she asked to read the preliminary draft and make suggestions. And in doing so, I learned a lot about her scientific priorities. I assumed that she wanted to reach the widest possible audience, so I suggested that she place her own exciting adventures and life experiences more squarely in the foreground of the narrative and cut or condense some of the extended descriptions of her students. But Jean would have none of it. It was then that I realized that the book was not just about Jean. It was about her entire lab family and close collaborators. Unlike most scientists who write memoirs, she viewed her achievements very much as a communal effort. And by God, no one was going to be left out or short-shrifted. Anyone who ever spent any time with Jean in a social situation quickly discovered what a great conversationalist and gifted storyteller she was. Jean could be relied upon to fill any awkward silence or spice up any desultory exegesis by recounting one of her hair-raising, hilarious stories from her vast repertoire. Like the time she woke up in her tent in Amazonia to find a large capybara standing over her, or the time she was unexpectedly escorted from her research site by a band of armed revolutionaries who transported her to safety on a railroad handcar, or the time she flew on a Chinese airline back in the 1980s as part of an elite delegation of international scientists. And after dinner was served and the trays were taken to the back of the plane, Jean got up to go to the restroom. And on her way, she passed by the stewardesses who were kneeling on the floor, picking out uneaten food items so they could be recycled for the next meal. And when the stewardesses looked up and saw Jean's startled expression, they sheepishly told her that China was still a very poor country and that nothing was allowed to go to waste. Inevitably, there came a point in every conversation with Jean when she would summarize the kernel of irreducible truth of whatever it was you were talking about. You knew the moment had arrived when she announced, "The thing of it is," along with a pithy conclusion, after which there was nothing more that could be said about the subject. So I'll end on that note. The thing of it is that Jean was a brilliant, daring, and charismatic colleague who, like other pioneering women in science, had to overcome a certain amount of discrimination on her way up the academic ladder. But she emerged triumphant, and the scientific community, and by extension, society as a whole, is the better for it.
I'm Gail Fale. I was one of Jean's graduate students in the mid-1980s at a time when she had about a dozen students to shepherd and her lab was crowded and busy. Jean managed this large lab group well and managed to have regular contact with every student. She was well organized and very exacting in her requirements of us. So when we finished our graduate degrees, we had the ability to write reasonably well, speak in public, and present ourselves as professionals. We all had publications. Her own major professor, William Cooper, was extremely demanding, and she continued that legacy with us. Jean expected her students to get along with each other, and more than that, to help each other. We were never in a competition, but in a collaboration. She saw her lab group as an extended family, and to help foster good family relations, she organized regular lab parties and kept track of our birthdays. She met our spouses, parents, and children and listened when we had personal problems. But she didn't allow whining. For example, if anyone complained about being poor while we were students, she always described the years of her own graduate research when she apparently lived on beans and peanut butter sandwiches. Her students were not always perfectly behaved, and there were some difficulties, squabbles over space in the lab. Who had the gas chromatograph on Mondays? Who left that dirty glassware in the sink? If you kept sloppy bench notes or an illegible field notebook, she would kick your butt. She was a killer with a red pen and lined out excessive verbiage in anything she wrote. She told us we could expect to rewrite each chapter of our PhD theses at least 6 times. But if you called in the middle of the night from jail, she would come bail you out. She was always there to help. I want to read a passage from the book Flowering Earth by Donald Petey, a renowned botanist who published this book in 1931. It was enormously popular at the time and continued to be into the 40s and 50s, as much for the poetry of Petey's writing as for his, at the time, up-to-date knowledge on the evolution of flowering plants. I took the book from Jean's bookshelf. It was one of her favorites, and I chose a passage that I think reflects Jean's feelings about being a botanist. Petey compared the love of plants to a kind of botanical patriotism. He said, "There are always some of us in every generation who go over wholly to the green flag. It is such a passionless fealty, so reticent a love, that neither do trumpets sound for it nor quarrels arise from it. Only you will find that those who have pledged allegiance to it are happy about it in quiet." Jean was one of those people in love with plants, and she was happy about it, although not so quiet. She expressed her love by delving into the chemical secrets of plant defenses, by growing plants on her patios, by appreciating plants wherever she went in the world. But she was also a humanist and loved people. She certainly loved her students and was as proud of them as any parent could be. We are all richer for having known her.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Gershenson, and I was at Santa Cruz a long time ago. In the 1970s, And Jean Langenheim was really the reason that I got started in science. I've been very lucky to have a nice career in science, and it all started with her and with Plants and Human Affairs, that wonderful course that she co-taught with Kenneth Tiemann. I think up until that time, I had, most Santa Cruz courses, it was not always easy to tell what you were supposed to learn, but she just gave these incredibly filled lectures, wonderfully presented material and beautiful slides, and it was fascinating. I just fell in love with it. I remember going out into the foggy mornings after the course and in the redwoods, and thinking, wow, how great that was. And it made me go on. At Santa Cruz, I was lucky there were some other great plant biologists there at the time, Harry Beavers and Lincoln Tays and Bill Doyle. And finally, when it came time to do my senior thesis, I applied to go into her lab, and she accepted me and remembered me a little from the course. And it was also a fantastic experience. That time, I think Hymenaea and Satyregia were the main experimental systems, and Will Stubblebine and Dave Lincoln were the people that I remember getting the most out of talk. Dave was my direct supervisor, and I should record a tribute for him sometime. But Jean was the center of it all. We called her Mama Jean. She was just this energy ball and knew so much. We all wanted to spend time with her. She would come rushing into the lab and sort of give a book to somebody and another corrected manuscript, or she'd looked over some data to someone else, or she'd just read a paper and wanted to talk about it, or got some data. And we had the feeling that, she was in touch with this incredibly exciting developing field. And chemical ecology, she's really one of the people that started it all. And she was right about how important chemistry was going to be in helping to understand a lot of ecological interaction. She was fantastic. You'd want to go in there. I remember Dave would say, well, let's talk about your data first. And then he would say, okay, you can go in and talk to her. And the feedback I got and the inspiration, you just want to go back in the lab and get more data and go right back in and talk to her. It was a drug. It was fantastic. She was an incredibly attentive advisor and and you knew she was right up on top of things. I guess I should also say that the personal side, she saw through a lot of the problems I had. I think especially near the end, I had a rough final quarter. I was distracted. I was arrested. I was involved in political demonstrations. I was doing a lot of other things, and she sort of overlooked it mostly. But then near the end, I had applied and gotten into graduate school, and with her help, you needed, we had no grades. You needed someone to advocate for you, and she did. But then I told her, this is really one of those big days in life. I went in and I told her, Jean, or Dr. Langenheim, I'm sure I said, I don't want to go. I want to travel for a year and then I'll apply again. And she just looked at me, and wow, I knew how upset she was, but she ended up saying, with a lot of emotion, but she said how she told me the nicest thing she said about me ever, about how she believed that I had the potential. But then she said, it's not enough to have potential. It's not enough to just sit around and talk about science. You got to do it. And that's how you get fun out of it. And that's how you really go through with it. And she gave me a great speech, and I went off to graduate school. And it's a version of that speech I've tried to give other people sometime, but I'm sure I've come up short. So I owe her that, and I owe her a lot more. And luckily I've had a chance to talk with her and keep up over the years, as you all have. And I really miss her. Wish we could still talk. But thanks for letting me share this. And and thanks very much to Ingrid for organizing.
Hi, I'm Ian Billick, the Executive Director of the Rocky Mountain Biological Laboratory. It's a true honor to be asked to share a few stories in memory of Jean Langenheim. It's appropriate. I remember the first conversation I had with Jean was when she called and she said she had a funny request. She wanted to know if there were any concerns about spreading her ashes up on Gothic Mountain after she passed away. She visited Gothic not long after that, and I got to know Jean and some of her long history, and that request made a lot more sense as I learned more about how much time she'd spent at Rumble and how much it meant to her. There's a long tie between Jean and the Rocky Mountain Biological Laboratory. One of her early faculty was Harriet Barkley. Harriet was a professor at University of Tulsa, and Jean was one of Harriet's students. And when Jean was getting ready to go to graduate school, Harriet sent her off to University of Minnesota, where Harriet had gotten her master's degree. And Jean went on to do her master's and PhD with Dr. Cooper there at University of Minnesota. And Dr. Cooper, following the tradition with Harriet, her connection to Rumble, really pushed Jean to do her thesis work at Rumble. So Jean ended up doing both her master's and PhD fieldwork here in Gothic, and she went on to teach classes and served on Rumble's board of trustees and was involved in many ways. Historically, field stations and Rumble have been great places for women scientists. Particularly back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I think Jean was probably Dr. Cooper's first PhD student. Harriet actually had to leave Minnesota to go to the University of Chicago to get a PhD because I think up until Jean, they were not allowing women to get PhDs in ecology or biology there at University of Minnesota. Many years later, after I got to know Jean, she set up an endowment for graduate students. It was sort of interesting talking to her about this. She really wanted to support graduate students working in plant ecology. We talked a little bit about whether the fellowship should target female scientists. And at that point, and this would have been 2009, 2010, she felt that science had come a long way and it was less critical to target fellowships to support women. To help them overcome some of the barriers they'd had in the sciences. So her endowment was explicitly set up to help both. But I think it was really quite extraordinary what Jean did in her career as an early female scientist, and we were very fortunate to have her at Rumble. That endowment has gone on to support numerous students. It's a 2-year award. It essentially covers the cost of being at Rumble 2 years in a row. We're able now to make that award every year. And going back through the list of students that have been supported by Jean and that endowment, starting in 2011, there are a lot of people that are now faculty and postdoc positions. So I know that her support will continue to touch people long after she's passed. So thank you for having this, supporting this gathering. And we're very fortunate to have Jean in the Rumble community.
Hi, this is Martin Quigley speaking to you from the UCSC Arboretum and Botanic Garden, an institution that began along with the founding of the university and of the early proponents of the Arboretum. Jean Langenheim was certainly one of the most important and the most active. Over the years, she had various projects going on, long-term ones, including some very, very large pine trees, which eventually outlived their usefulness and had to come down. But Jean has always been an advocate of student involvement in many ways, and that was exemplified here at the Arboretum, where so many people were involved with her and her work over time. For those of you who don't know, we also have the Kauri Grove that actually was started at the very, very beginning when Jean's work on the amber or sap from the kauri trees of New Zealand was first getting her worldwide recognition. Anyway, we have a grove of them now growing at various ages and stages and starting to look very characteristic. And you'll also find there in the New Zealand section one of the faculty vignette posters that Jean Langenheim supported through her faculty connection project, which was to present researchers here at UCSC on signs and posters here at the Arboretum so people could relate to what they were seeing in the garden. So besides all that, Jean was a wonderful friend, and she was a benefactor for the Arboretum, and I know she supported so many students and units and causes over the last 40-odd years. And we are very, very privileged to have been one of them. And because of her, we maintained a stronger faculty connection than we might have through some of the darker years as the Arboretum has gone through its historical ups and downs. Anyway, it's good to see you all here today, and I just wish to acknowledge Jean as one of our most inspiring and wonderful benefactors and friends. Thank you.
To honor her cat Blackie, Dr. Jean Langenheim generously established the Blackie Senior Friends Fund here at the Santa Cruz SPCA. It is now our privilege to honor her for her kindness, compassion, and wisdom. Here in the custom-built cat wing of our brand new animal shelter, our cats, both young and old, will go to caring homes and enrich the lives of their families. Seniors especially benefit from the companionship and sense of purpose that comes with caring for and developing a relationship with a pet. Nobody understood this bond better than Jean. Her work as a world-class botanist and pioneering ecologist would suggest a life of science, but she also shared a philosophy with literary giant Charles Dickens, who said, "What greater gift than the love of a cat?" When she began the Blackie Senior Friends program with a $25,000 donation in 2000, she said, "I felt the time was right to do something that would help senior citizens and older animals find and keep each other." Jean's vision for Blackie's Senior Friends Fund was to change the lives of both animals and seniors in two beneficial ways. Firstly, it connects senior people with senior pets and pays the adoption fee when a great match is found. And secondly, it provides veterinary services to seniors living on a low fixed income through both preventative care and diagnostic treatment. The fund allows older adults to enjoy the love of a pet without unmanageable care costs. Over the years, Jean's generosity has touched countless 2- and 4-legged lives, including Piper, the boxer, who in 2017 had a cancerous tumor removed from her mouth with the help of Blackie's Fund individual grants. And she's still thriving, cancer-free. Smitten received care through one of Blackie's preventative care clinics in 2016. In 2021, he passed away, and his owner came to the SPCA and adopted another senior Chihuahua with the help of Blackie's Senior to Senior program. Then there was Oreo, who was diagnosed and treated for hypothyroidism through Blackie's individual grant in 2018, and is now living a much improved life on the important lifelong medication he needs. In 2016, Oliver was seen at a Blackie's Care preventative clinic, and the vet said every single tooth in his mouth was painfully abscessed. With the help of Blackie's individual grant, he had them all removed and lived on for 4 more pain-free years. In Jean's infinite wisdom, she established Blackie's Endowment Fund, which will allow her life-saving impact to continue for years and years to come. It has been the Santa Cruz SPCA's true pleasure and honor to have worked with Jean for more than 20 years to administer Blackie's Fund. We've seen countless senior smiles, heard huge sighs of relief when needed vet visits and treatments were covered, and enjoyed many reports of contented purring and doggy snoring from happy, rehomed pets. Jean's philanthropy has and will make an invaluable difference in our senior and animal welfare communities. We are profoundly grateful and much enriched by our partnership with Dr. Langenheim and her legacy of kindness. She is our local hero and a dear friend to our organization and to the animals. Thank you.
Jean dedicated her book, her memoir, to her mother, who was the most influential character in her story. She also dedicated it to the students and friends who shared her journey. And then, finally, she dedicated it to, in her words, women especially who aspire to travel similar but now more open trails. The fact that she dedicated her life story not just to the companions of her past and present, but also to her fellow travelers of the future, reveals a deep truth about Jean. During the entire time that I knew her, Jean was always thinking about how to support the next generation of scientists who would come after her. I first met Jean in 1998 when I began my job at UC Santa Cruz. Having retired to emeritus status a number of years previously, she was in the process of closing down her lab, and she generously gifted me with 100 Erlenmeyer flasks, 2 ancient drying ovens that are still working, and a giant stack of senior theses, and a basket of stories of the early days, of making do with little, of students and faculty who helped each other, and of senior scholars who took time to socialize over tea. Creating a community of plant-loving people, creating a space for those who pledge allegiance to the green flag, in Gail's words, was extremely important to Jean. Her stories of the botany teas were our original inspiration for creating the Biennial Plant Research Symposium, which is now in its 17th year. And I'm happy to report that Jean was able to attend every one of the symposia and enjoyed holding court as our wise matriarch. Jean was a frugal person, a child of Oklahoma in the Depression era. And I would say it was quite a shock to her to realize late in life that she had become quite rich. Her estate manager, Rick Pulse, deserves much of the credit for helping Jean to realize, while she was still very much alive, that she could enjoy spending her accumulated wealth in a way that expressed her values and furthered her dreams. Not dreams of adventure and discovery anymore, but dreams for her community and its future. In the mid-2000s, Jean created a graduate fellowship that has to date supported 29 students at UC Santa Cruz in both environmental studies and ecology and evolutionary biology. One of the special benefits to these students was the opportunity to go to a special luncheon with Jean. And I dare say that luncheons with her fellows was one of the joys of Jean's later years as well, as she loved to hear about their ongoing research and share some of her stories. No matter what the project, it always seemed like there was some connection to Jean's own research or past adventures. Jean's gifts to the Arboretum have already been mentioned by Martin Quigley. Her creative way of supporting connections among the various groups of botanists across the university. Jean also endowed a faculty chair in plant ecology and evolution, which supports and celebrates distinguished research and teaching focused on plants. I was privileged to be the first holder of this chair, and it is hard for me to imagine that someday there will be chair holders who have never met Jean and will not know in a personal way what it means to carry that mantle. I'm grateful that we have Jean's memoir, which each Langenheim chair will receive as a gift, so that future generations of plant biologists at UC Santa Cruz will be able to enjoy Jean's stories and realize how far we have come. Jean Langenheim lived through exciting times. Her fearless nature turned challenge and desperation into opportunity. Through her personal choices, her gifts, and her philanthropy, she has made so many things possible for others. Today, we celebrate her life and achievements. We remember the lessons we learned from her. We give thanks for the gifts she shared, and inspired, we look to the future. Thank you.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yeah.